Broadcasting from the Black Licorice Studio in London, Ontario, Canada. Welcome. This is Journeys with the No Schedule Man. I'm Kevin Bulmer. This episode is presented by Mulligan Realty Group, Provincial Glass and Mirror, MyRealSuccess.ca, and NSM Brand Media. And I've been so excited about having this conversation for quite a little while, since about April of 2020, to be specific. And to give you an idea, this conversation is now happening in, what month is it? February of 2021. The days and the weeks and the months just seem to be piling up as we go through this pandemic. It's crazy. Joe Atang, I don't know quite how to describe him to you, other than he is a relentlessly positive, encouraging, and supportive voice to hundreds of thousands of people. And that's just a guess. I don't know that we can come up with an accurate idea of just how many people he's touched, but I'm one of them. When I was coaxed into creating a TikTok account last April, I was hesitant because I thought that's not my thing of just, young people gyrating and doing fun stuff. I don't have anything against that. But one of the first people that came up after I created an account was some guy named Joe Atang, who had the word hi written on his palm. And I saw a couple of his videos and I thought, you know what? I think I'll stay. and I knew almost right away I wanted to interview him on the podcast, but I wanted to stick around and earn that a little bit. But now here we are. And Joe joins us. Hi, help Inspyre with a Y, also the CEO of a company called Innovative Looks. But Joe, before we do anything else, I want to first of all just welcome you and thank you for your time and ask how you and your family are doing through this craziest of times we're going through.
Absolutely. First of all, I just want to say it's an honor. It's a privilege to be able to be invited as a guest on your show, especially since you said since the first time of running across my account that you already considered me to be someone you wanted to interview. I think that's amazing. So thank you. Also, by the way, just on record, I want to say that you have one of the most familiar faces. I don't know.
What does that mean?
It's just you're a handsome guy, but you have one of those faces that are memorable. I don't know. I just feel like I'd be able to spot you out from anywhere. So that's that's a good thing. Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like I'm so impossibly plain, Joe. So thank you for saying that. It's nice to know that somebody feels that way. I'm the most boring Canadian white guy. It's like I've got no look. I look like, in another 30 years, if I'm lucky enough to be around that long, I'm going to be one of these old white guys who drives me nuts now.
We're usually our own worst critic, right? But
yeah.
You definitely have a memorable presence, I would say.
Don't you think you can, maybe along those lines, Joe, I don't know whether it's in the eyes or just the energy. I think that we're even finding out now as much as ever that we can communicate that sort of energy and sincerity or lack of it through online tools and other ways of communication. Even when we're not in the same room, we can still sort of sense what the essence is of a person. Do you get that sense too?
Not to get too woo-woo out here, but I've always felt like, regardless if we're in person or virtual, over the phone or like we're doing now, video chatting, like there's a sense of energy you can read from individuals. And I've always believed that. I used to think I was weird until people started to say the same thing back to me. And I was like, oh no, this is real. Like, this is how humans communicate way beyond just the language. And I think you probably have heard this before, but they say that communication is, something like 80% body language. And I think even mixed into that, and I don't know if there's any research that's been done around it, but I think even inside of that percentage, there has to be some kind of energy communication as well.
It amazes me how we can pick up on that. And a lot of times, people who have become guests on this podcast, we've just sort of run into each other.
Yeah.
Like, why did you pop up when I opened up a TikTok account? And I've got to tell you, Joe, like I really resisted that. Because I just didn't know that I wanted to get on that treadmill or that I really had much to offer. And I had an idea of what that platform was. And if it wasn't the first day, it was within the first couple of days that after I created an account and I just started watching some videos, you popped up and Bryant Chambers popped up. And I thought, oh, well, okay. I didn't know that there were guys like this around here sharing the kind of things that you guys are sharing. And I thought, well, I'll stick around. And I watched for a couple of weeks, and then I decided to start putting some content out on my own. But I know that I'm not the only one that you've heard from who has felt a connection with you in that way. What's it been like for you to hear from people from probably all around the world that that you have meant something to, that you've just been able to encourage them and uplift them, give them something to smile about, some reason to find hope when they otherwise weren't really feeling that, when they reach out to you? What's that like for your perspective?
In simple terms, it's been humbling. You know, when I first set out to start creating content on TikTok, my agenda was, let me just go out here and do the best that I can to be myself and authentically share whatever messages or values or lessons that have helped me, that I've applied into my life, to like just share it with the world. And I didn't go into it with any expectations, because honestly, I started off my content creation journey really on YouTube. And I used to put out videos that took me, anywhere from 4 to 6 hours to, edit and try to put the story together and put it out into the world. And I'd get, anywhere from 2 to 4 views. So I went into TikTok with very, very low expectations, and to be able to receive kind of the love that I've been getting from, the community out there has been nothing short of humbling, to be honest with you, and meaningful. I think it feels good to be able to know that the stuff that has helped you is helping other people, is genuinely helping other people. I feel like that makes me feel happy and just excited for them.
It feels to me like there's a bit of a sea change happening, or maybe that's just in my head because it's what I'm looking for. I'm interested in your perspective. And the change that I'm referring to, Joe, is it seems to me like we're going from looking for the sort of sage on the stage saying, this is how you do this and that and the other, to more of a sharing kind of a thing. And you've already alluded to that. Like, hey, I'm sharing. This is what's worked for me, what hasn't worked for me, how I'm evolving, what I'm trying. And it's a subtle difference, I think, but I think it's a powerful difference. What do you think?
I would agree. I think connection, looking for someone who we could relate with, and someone who's just going to give it to us. When I say real, like them being authentically themselves. And I think we're all in search for that. And I think, I heard a quote, and I don't read as much as I used to, but there was like a quote in a book that I was reading, how we're now living in times where people are sensing the BS a lot quicker. Our BS radars are, a lot more sensitive today. And so I would agree. I think there is a change of, going from the guru on stage to, hey, who's someone who's more authentic, someone I can relate with, someone who's just going to lay it straight with us.
What was it that got you creating content in the first place? Like back in the YouTube days and whatnot, what was moving you to say, okay, I feel like I've got something to share and I want to put it out there? What was that like at that time?
I'm really excited you asked this question, because I've been asked it before on other podcasts, and I don't think it made me think. And so you're about to get the most genuine answer, You
can come back in another 6 months if you want to see how much it's refined.
I'm pretty sure it's going to keep evolving, right? That's how this works. But
absolutely.
The answer today would be, I feel like I've always been one of those personalities who just always wanted to just kind of share and like connect with other people, even when I was younger. And honestly, when I graduated from college and started to dive into business, I was doing MLM at the time. I started learning about landing pages. And so I started to research and Google and see what it took to make a landing page. And I started making these sales videos. Like I remember sitting, 10 o'clock at night when the salon had shut down, just literally having the camera. I think I had my parents or someone invested into a camera and gave it, or passed a camera down to me. And I started making these sales videos for my landing page because I was learning how to build landing pages. And I feel like that really is when I started to make content for the internet. But I was kind of without a purpose. I was kind of just shooting in the dark.
Hmm.
That skill set was learned from a mentor of mine. Shout out to Craig Ward, who was kind of opening my mind and expanding my mind on what business and marketing actually meant. But me going out and intentionally making videos to share my story was Gary Vee. I mean,
Hmm.
he in every pretty much all his content, he's always harping on the importance of storytelling around your brand and how your brand is equivalent to your reputation. I was like, you know what, that makes sense. So if I'm really trying to do this business thing and try to market, I have to learn how to start like putting more content out there. And so, I decided to hop in full force and start making YouTube videos back in 2016.
Were you on TikTok when it was still Musically?
I was on TikTok when it was Musically, but I wasn't really creating content. Like if anybody out there wants to like start scrolling down to my first post, my first 4 or 5 posts, you'll see me with my younger siblings, literally just being silly and trying to make videos because they were into it. And I just wanted to kind of tag along and see what it was about. But I'm just like yourself. I looked at this platform like, nah, this is not for me, lip syncing. And while I can dance a little bit, I'm not really doing any kind of TikTok dancing, but when it was Musically, I wasn't making any content. I was just kind of on just to be on and scope out the scene.
So at what point then did you decide? And the reason why I'm hesitating is because I'm wanting to say I've done exactly what you just said. I'm going to reveal myself. I've gone all the way back to the beginning of your TikTok journey and looking at it and say, look, hey, how'd this guy do this? Like, where'd this catch? And we'll come back around to that because I think the answer is a valuable one for anyone to hear, because I don't know that there really ever was a catch. It looks like it's been a build. But anyway, I've done that. And I encourage anyone else to do that, both with you and with me or anyone else, to see that it's a journey. But what was it that got you not just sharing content on TikTok, but what you remember about when it started to turn to sort of really feel more clear in terms of what you were delivering that ultimately has morphed into what you're doing now, like the encouragement, the help inspire stuff? Where did that click for you?
Yeah, so I probably had, and don't hold me to this, I'm not sure what number of video it was that I started creating when I made my first high video, but up until that point, I was just making videos, like I said, low expectations, and really like pouring all my energy into what is the best, how can I utilize, for anybody out there who still isn't fully aware of like what TikTok is, it's really a video app around music and trends. And so once you learn the communication around like the certain trends that are going on, pretty much you emulate those trends in your own way. So I used to question myself and ask, like, how can I take this concept of believe in yourself and use this trend to kind of share this message? And so I did that for like 50 something videos. And I was sitting on my sunroom one day, it was snowing outside. I was like, you know what? Let me take a time out right here, right now. I want to really engage and try to build some community. What if, and it just so happened to be, there was a Sharpie on my desk. I was like, what if I just wrote hi on my hand, put some nice, music in the background, went outside in the snow for the aesthetic purposes, and just made a video that said hi, like, hi, I think it'd be awesome if, you said hi back. And so I made that video, and this was back in February of, February 12th of 2020. And 37,000 views later, and almost like 9,000 comments later and some of those comments including people saying, wow, this video really touched me. This video was awesome. And I'm like, damn, I'm just saying hi. Like, I'm just saying hi on the video, but people took a lot of meaning from it. That's when I was like, wow, the power of hi. And so it was at that point where I had the conversation with myself, and I said, I'm someone who has to attach or create some kind of meaning behind everything I do. What if I just, create the acronym of help inspire? And it was just like that. I mean, I can't even describe to you how easy it came to me. It just kind of flowed from there.
Have you ever thought about just tattooing high onto your head?
I think about it all the time. I probably had
Did
over a
you
hundred.
really?
I've had over 100 comments of people, requesting that I get it tattooed on my hand.
Really?
There's a percentage of those people who comment that say it's probably um, more healthy for me to just go ahead and get a tattoo than using a Sharpie every single day. And then a lot of people just want me to do it because they think it'd be awesome. So, but yeah, I
Is
get,
there any issue with that stuff going into your skin? I've wondered about that.
I started to wonder about it when someone left a comment saying that's not healthy for you. And so I went to Google, I typed it in, and it's actually not, it's non-toxic. Sharpies
Yeah.
are non-toxic. And so it's not like I'm sure it's not that healthy for you. So I don't even want to be, you know.
Well, if you're going to get it tattooed, there's ink that's got to go into your skin that way, isn't it?
Exactly. For
Which
sure.
I'm sure is also non-toxic.
For sure.
Why the why in Inspyre? Help inspire with a why.
The honest answer is because the I was already taken when I was trying to, retrieve the domain name on the internet. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? Instead of trying to fight the system, let me go ahead and I like it though, because it speaks to my personality. Let me go ahead and kind of bend the rules of how this word's supposed to be spelled and add Y to it. Still has the same enunciation, right? So
it's evidence of the power of things just sort of happening organically, and that organic idea is maybe a bit overused now, along with maybe authentic. But I think you get what I mean. The spirit of it, rather than pressuring ourselves to sit down and decide what the next great idea is going to be, I really encourage people to jump into the pool and just start thrashing around and allow yourself to enjoy the discovery process, and that you'll know when you know. Like, was there any doubt in your mind after you put that first video out and it spooled up to 30,000 some odd views? And moreover, the feedback that you had just mentioned that you got from that, was there any doubt in your mind at all that you're like, oh, okay, this is something that is worth putting some more attention in?
No, like I said, right after, which you could say 24 hours after that video happened, in my mind, it triggered, do something with this. Like there's something there. And so I just ran with it. And that's why I feel really fortunate that, the universe kind of like organically presented that to me.
Yeah. That's where the best stuff happens, I think. So when I think about Joe Atang, there are several things like that I view as sort of brand story and strategy markers, parts of your personality that are just burned into my DNA. And the high is certainly one of them. We'll get to Bill Withers in a moment. I also have this image of you standing in the shower, which I try to shake because I also take cold showers. But no offense to you personally, but there's certain things I want to see and other things that I don't need to. We'll maybe see if we can make time for that.
Amazing.
Maybe you and I will do a little bit of Wim Hof horse stance before we're done.
Right. I hope you can educate me on some of that stuff, though. I've yet to do my due diligence on the Wim Hof, but I've seen a lot of comments on people telling me I need to look into that. So hopefully, at some point throughout this conversation, you can enlighten me.
if you want me to. The text me and I'll call you, or the phone calls, the live. Pretty much every morning when I wake up, I'm still kind of getting myself together, and I can see Joe Tang's live on TikTok. And I thought, boy, that takes a lot of dedication, especially when you've got young kids in the house. My experience was just keeping your head screwed on straight. took a lot of dedication with young kids in the house. How did the calling people on the live, the going live on TikTok, how did that develop for you?
I'm going to give credit where credit's due. Gary, he was doing it with his communities. All his content, when he goes live, he tries to use that time to actually engage with his community. And so me being a fan and being inspired by his work, I'm like, wow, like at some point, I'd love to be able to engage with my community in that way. I think it creates context, besides me just reading the comments reading the comments out loud to myself, essentially, or to the people who are watching. Why not just hop on the phone and just say hi? And I think it was, again, another organic build for me, because when I was telling you that I was building these sales pages for the internet back in 2012, one thing that I was practicing during that time as well was doing sales over the phone. And so I had built the skill set where I'm pretty comfortable of, picking up the phone and calling strangers. And so for me, I was like, you know what, these are more than just strangers. These are people who are showing me love. Let me at least pick up the phone and thank them. That's the mentality I took. And so how it kind of started trending in the mornings is because of children. I couldn't find time during the day to do it. And I figured, why not try to wake up a little bit earlier than they do and spend some time and dedicate to my community, which all in all, and you'll appreciate this, I think how we start our day dictates how our day is going to be. Yeah. And that's always been true to me. And so I was like, you know what, if I could share this experience of creating momentum, positive momentum in the mornings with my community, I think they'll find a lot of value from that. And that's how I've been able to stay consistent with it, because I view it as it's just another form of, or another ritual for me to increase that energy for me to go into my days. And I want to share it with the people in my community. So
what were the first couple of calls like for you?
I'm not gonna lie, a little awkward. I think partly because I was still trying to figure out the system behind how I was going to do this.
Yep.
I don't have a team behind me like Gary does. Like, this is me making the phone calls, trying to find people from the queue, and actually making the calls. So for me, it was a little awkward, but for me, it's bringing it back to the basics. It's human to human interaction, regardless of what's going on. Just be authentic. If a mistake happens, be okay, roll with it. And so I just roll with the punches. And I still make mistakes till today. But what I'm finding is that a lot of people appreciate my transparency around, hey, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm still trying to figure it out. Let's roll with it. Like, at least we're able to communicate and hear from each other.
Yeah, that's why I don't believe in a conspiracy theory around any of this pandemic stuff, Joe, is because I think it would be giving the powers that be way too much credit that any of us have any idea what we're doing. I think that everybody's just scrambling moment to moment to do their best. And sometimes we look down on ourselves thinking that everybody else has everything figured out much better than we do. And I wonder if it isn't just a matter of those who make progress and get ahead are willing to go through that initial discomfort bit. I've often thought, you've mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk a couple of times. I love Gary too. I've often thought that I see a lot of people cheering him on, or, yeah, that's great, or I love this, or I agree with that. But I don't see nearly as many people actually going ahead and doing it. Yeah, applying it. And and you're doing it. Well, how much fun is it for you, even when you get to the point where you realize that you've been through that sort of stumbling, awkward phase, and some things maybe you drop, but other things kind of click? How has that translated into you looking at another opportunity and going, okay, I don't really know exactly how this is going to go, but I know I'm actually going to be able to have some level of fun, even if it blows up in my face. I know I'm going to survive it. What do you think about that whole process?
Kevin, by the way, let me be random. What do your friends call you? I want to make sure I'm calling you. Do they just call you Kevin?
Oh, they call me Kevin. They call me Kev. They call me KB. Kev. They call me Hey You. I was
going to call you Kev. I was going to call you Kev.
You can call me whatever you want, Joe.
I mean, we've already talked about showers and all that stuff. I figured, we might.
You started that, man. Like, yeah, I'm just following Wim Hof's instructions, and every single time I'm naked in the shower with it all the way to cold, I'm thinking about Joe Atang. Like, jeez, man.
Kev, I'll tell you right now, man, I'm so glad you brought this up. I feel like I've discovered the cheat code for my own life experience. And it's funny because I just got off a phone call with my best friend, my brother, who I met in junior college back in 2005. And we were talking about how we've always been those guys who were willing to put in the work. And I think that's that experience that I had from not only the example from my parents, which I haven't really, mentioned too much of, but my parents were a huge example. I'm first generation American. They come from a country in West Africa. And I always make the joke and let people know that, no, it's not Nigeria. Because anytime people hear that I'm African, they always assume that I'm Nigerian. But we're neighbors to Nigeria. The country's called Cameroon, where my parents are from. And so to see them to be able to leave that country, start over in America and build, they're both entrepreneurs, both raised a family. That example, plus my experience with high school and college basketball, I feel like those two experiences alone are giving me kind of a cheat code with life. Like, it's just about applying the knowledge that you have and be willing to go through, not only the ups, but the downs as well to learn. And so I feel like it's helped me tremendously with putting out content. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I have it all figured out. But what I'm trying to say is that I'm willing to go through the process, and I'm falling in love with the process of stumbling and falling, and I'm willing to get back up and say, hey, let's keep going.
How often do you find you feel you need to sort of take a step back just for yourself, just to kind of gather yourself and recharge and reflect when you're constantly giving, coming up with ideas? I know that it's a muscle that you can build to just keep coming up with content and keep sharing. My experience has been every now and then I need to stop shaking the snow globe. I need to set it down and let it settle and just back off and go sit in the shadows for a bit. What about you? What's that look like for you?
I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of hard, Kev, for me, because I'm always like, go, go, go. In my mind, I'm always like, oh my gosh, like there's this opportunity, or there's this thing that I'm inspired by, that I think sometimes I let my excitement take over. And honestly, I think it's why I adopted the practice of meditation, because I think it's intentionally forcing myself to slow down and embrace being in the moment. And I attribute a lot of what I'm doing right now to just practicing learning how to slow down. And, we were talking about the Wim Hof and breathing, like just breathe and be present. And I feel like it's done wonders. It's okay to take a step back. And it's not even a step back, to be honest with you, but it's okay to take a step back to take in what's going on, to be able to go forward even faster. And so right now, as we speak, it's something that I'm really learning to do more and more.
Do you ever get to the point where you're just like, man, I don't have it today. I need it. I need a break. Let somebody else put a video out. I'm thinking you've got to, but I don't know.
No,
because I certainly do.
I do. It's especially going back to my experience of making YouTube videos. I was out on a mission to make a video every single day for 365 days. I'll tell you right now that I didn't make it 365 days straight because of what you're saying right now. Like, you do experience some burnout, especially as you're along the journey of trying to figure it out. Because like in 2016, I was trying to figure it out. I was trying to learn how to edit, use the software, use the camera, storytell, be authentic, because sometimes, especially in the beginning, when I would make a video, I can tell I was like presentation mode. Oh, I have to be perfectly, I have to say things perfect. Let me re-record that. I was stuttering, And so you're trying to learn your cadence of sharing. And so I experienced some burnout. And like I said, I feel like that's equivalent to me falling and stumbling, but I'm willing to get back up and keep going. So
what about when the trolls come out?
You know what's funny? I knock on wood, have not had crazy experience with trolls. Now in my mind, of course, because we're our worst critics, I've always thought about like, I wonder what people are going to say about X, Y, and Z, me making this video, me putting high on my hand, like all the stories are up here, but I haven't really experienced too much of it, in the comments. And that's been humbling to me because of all the stories I've been telling myself. But at the end of the day, I think I'm ready for it. As I'm kind of battling my own thoughts, I'm telling myself like, what's my intention around putting this message out? And no one really is going to understand my intention except me. And as long as I'm okay and I feel like it's bringing value to people, I'm going to do it and let the trolls come as they may, because I know that the people who are going to be willing to troll me have nothing better to do with their life or their time.
Yeah, I mentioned that because I wonder if there are future voices that we need to hear who are uplifting like you, who maybe hesitate at the thought of that. And also because that's something that I really struggled with for a long time. In my original career, my background was in radio and broadcasting, and then I ended up veering off into business and media, sales and marketing and things like that.
Yeah.
But I remember being really hurt by criticisms that I would get from people when I was on the air. of people that, which I found it very hurtful. Hell, you don't even know me. You don't know who I am, and you're telling me that I'm a horrible person just because of the sound of my voice. Or one time somebody got fired, and then I got put in their place, and I took all this hate just because I wasn't him. And if I'm being honest with you, Joe, I feel like that really delayed me pursuing my passions for speaking and doing some things like this, because I invested a lot of energy worrying about things that have still never happened. And that even I've learned that when people do come after me, because I don't do the kind, I'm the same as you. I don't do the kind of stuff that looks to provoke anyone. I'm trying to encourage people, but
Right, right.
you get those that have the narrative that
Absolutely.
I had somebody arguing with me about a video that I put out about happiness, and somebody jumps down my throat saying, "This is a bad message. It's not happiness. It's joy that you want. It's peace." And I'm like, okay, so we're going to get into a war about vocabulary. But what I'm thinking is that's, we're all looking at things through our own
Lenses.
script and our own perspective, right? And I like what Gary Vaynerchuk says about that too, about meeting that stuff with compassion. But I admit it's held me back. And so I wondered about, because you are so relentlessly positive and uplifting, I wondered if you ever get somebody that just sticks a thorn in it,
Here's
and
what's
whether
funny.
that slows you down at all.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it now. Like when I'm posting on my feed, I'm getting a lot of love. Now there has been instances during my lives where someone would come in. I blocked maybe a handful of people just because I knew they were out. It wasn't and I knew it wasn't anything against me. I knew it was just them. Like they'd come in and weren't even hearing what I was saying to them. They would just be, filling up my timeline with just negative stuff. So I blocked them, and that didn't really affect me. But there's been one or two people who've come out questioning my intentions behind the stuff that I've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I do take some of that to heart, because I feel like I'm genuinely trying to help people. And when anybody questions that, I'm like, no, I'm gonna have to try my best to put in the effort to explain to you what I'm up to. So um I I uh I attribute a lot of me being willing to go through even some of the stories I tell myself in my head, like to keep going forward, to some of my experiences when I was younger. I feel like I was one of those kids I was made fun of all the time when I was younger, and I think those experiences kind of helped me build the calluses to be able to like kind of just see that and keep moving forward. And so, does it affect me? I would say I definitely think about it. I'm a human being, and even if it's a story I'm telling myself, or I see someone kind of questioning what I'm up to, I definitely question it. But I always try to challenge myself. And I even went to the extent of like creating this reminder. I don't know if people can see it, but if you're hearing what I'm showing Kev right now, it's my tattoo on my forearm. It's intent. And I tattoo that to remind myself that my intention is what should lead the way. Nothing else should lead the way.
Yeah, the rest really isn't up to us, is it?
Right. It's not up to us at all.
What did kids make fun of you about?
Being African, that was different, and I think anything that's different when you're younger is weird, and so they'd find ways to make fun of me and being African. And that's funny, right? Like I'm thinking about my childhood and how I really was growing up in dual cultures. Here I am. My parents are from Cameroon, and they have their own ways of how they grew up in their lifestyle. So I'm essentially being raised in a Cameroon culture, but then I'm born and going to American schools, and so I'm being raised in that culture. So I kind of was like stuck in the middle of both worlds, and so I was different as a kid growing up, and I had a different worldview, and I'd be made fun of for that. When I was in fifth grade, going into the fifth grade, I had fractured both of my teeth. Actually, I had one tooth missing. And so I was made fun of for how my teeth looked and my smile. And a story I like to share, because I think it's funny at the end of the day, is going into class and all my classmates asking me, what happened to your teeth, Joe? What kind of accident did you have? And by the end of the school day, my homeroom class like chanting dentures, 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 and me just wanted to me the kid who was gullible, naive, just wanted to impact the world, was like celebrating with them and then screaming out dentures, dentures, and I start to brag with to my dad and my sister on the way home, saying that the class, you would never believe what happened. Like the class was chanting for me, and my sister, who's 2 years younger than me, was like, like look up what dentures actually means. And at that time, you had to actually get a dictionary and look it up. My dad's favorite thing to say was like, get the dictionary. So anyways, I looked up what dentures actually meant, and I was like, wow, they were really just making fun of me. They weren't really chanting for me. They were chanting at me. And so little things like that, I feel like it kind of forced me to not only believe in myself, but develop the ability to kind of overlook those things growing up.
It's tough to be a young person, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And so I have my children. That's all I think about is like, man, I just want to be there for them, during these times, because there's nothing my parents could have done to help avoid that situation or the situation I had, during school or with my friends,
Yeah.
so-called friends.
Here's something that I wrote down because I wanted to make sure that I mentioned it to you. In the spring, going into the summer of 2020, difficult times got even more difficult after George Floyd was killed. And that really took the wind out of my sails. I was just so disheartened by what I was seeing. And I felt like, as this white guy from Canada, that I really couldn't, I didn't really have any right to say anything about anything. I was just really heartbroken by it. But here's what I wanted to share with you was, and I'm telling you the God's honest truth here, Joe. The first person that I thought I want to see what they have to say about this was you. I thought, and I kept going back to your channel and checking it to see if you were going to say anything and what you would say. And when you did, I just thought it was so completely perfect. I believe that I did a duet of the video to just say something about one of the reasons why I like TikTok is that it gives me the opportunity to stand with someone like Joe. So that
I remember that
you could share the words, and that I could just show, I stand with him. And I wanted you to know that you were the first person that I thought of, and I went to you for comfort at that time.
I appreciate
and really appreciated what you said. What's that like for you when something like that is going on, and having to be the kind of person that understands what that's like, of just like, I cannot relate to what it feels like to be a Black man and to observe something as horrific as that, and then the fallout of it. How do you process that?
Oh man, it's my personal experience around it is that obviously it's heartbreaking, and just sad, and it takes an emotional toll, plays an emotional toll on me. I think it'd be fair to describe it as scary as well, right? Because it's like you never know, that could be me, right? Or some of the stories you tell yourself, but that could have been me. But again, I go back to my parents and how they raised us, and just through their example of just finding that the ability to fight, and be relentless in your mission and what you stand for, and just keep pushing, right? Keep finding ways to push. And I kid you not, Kev, like the older I get, obviously this is cliche, but you find more appreciation in your parents. But I'm really like, I see the world how it is, and where the areas that are broken, and these incidents that happen. I'm like, man, my parents really did a great job, with helping me have the have the outlook that I have on life, you know, and I don't know. I just give them a lot of credit for it
See, at a
because
time like that,
they just kept fighting. Mm-hmm.
well, and I guess what really fascinates me is the definition of what the fight is in this context, because when something is ugly as that is going on in the face of systemic racism leading to murder and violence, um, it would be easy to just go for the vengeance, an eye for an eye, blood for blood. It's understandable why people would react like that. And your stance at that time was just so consistent with who you are in general, which was basically a call for love, if I remember correctly. Um, I wish I'd called the video up before we had this conversation. I'll look at it after, and
You know what you're talking about.
I'll link it in the. Sorry to cut you off, but I really want to finish this point. I'll link it with the blog post for this with the show notes. But my stand on this, Joe, is that it takes great big brass balls to choose love in the face of darkness, and that I'm 46, and what I remember from most of my life is loving beings being kind of depicted as meek or weak. And I can only speak for myself, but I think that just choosing hate and choosing vengeance, and while I understand it, it's a lot more accessible. It's even, I might even say, it's lazy compared to acknowledging that there are really dark things, evil people and things going on in this world, but then choosing to love anyway, I think is a heroically strong thing to choose. I'm guessing you know what I'm talking about, but am I off base in terms of how you feel about that?
No, I was going to say that I think love for me love can be defined in many different ways, but at the end of the day, there's love and there's hate. And I think for me, the reason why I'm still going that course is because not only is it easier for me to like take in what's going on, there's bad and there's good, there's love and there's hate. There's only so much that Joe Atang can control. And if I start within myself and let that be where I start to, because my thing is leading by example and being the change. I feel like that's the best way to create change, you know, and I've always been pretty consistent with that. I remember being in high school. I don't know if I was a sophomore or junior, but literally writing Martin Luther King's speech on my basketball and carrying it around. What was I thinking at the time? I don't know, but I know that he was an example to me, and he was the example. Like, he was just a good example to me of what character looked like. And that's always stuck close to me. So I feel like to be the change is changing. And so for me, love is learning how to love yourself first, and then letting that speak for itself through your example. And I look at all the people who have inspired me, who have impacted me in my life outside of just my parents, and they all, every single one of them came from a place of love. And so,
well, on that positive note, to revisit a thread that we were investigating earlier on the signposts and the markers that are weaved into what I think is the spirit of what Joe Atang is. You've got the high, help inspire. You've got the lives with the I'm going to call you. And most recently, this Bill Withers song, A Lovely Day. I can't remember the actual name of the song.
Lovely Day.
Is that what it's called? A Lovely Day? It's going to be a lovely day. Just to me, it just belongs to Joe Atang now. I think Bill, wherever his spirit is, he loves what you're doing with that, wherever he's watching from. How did that weave itself into all of this?
Again, that was another organic unfold, right? Like during my lives, I play old soul 70s music, like classic music. And the reason why is because it just makes me feel good. And I think it does because my mom used to listen to this all the time when we'd go on these shopping trips with her, and she'd be visiting her thrift stores who would have those classics playing in the intercoms, or I'm hearing it in the car or whatever, right? And so for me, I think it's more nostalgic and it just helps me, makes me feel good. But every time Lovely Day would play, I would get an extra dose of like positive just energy, and I'd want to go. And people just started associating that song to me in my lives. And I just had an idea one day of like, you know what, I've never really I use all these other sounds to make my content, but I've never really used the song that, people keep, mentioning by in any of my videos. And so I decided to start making, Lovely Day videos. And it's so funny, Kev, like the first time I went on, I literally was just, doing my little dance that I do, and waving hi. I was like, I wonder how creative I can get with this one sound, since everybody's always saying that they think of me when they hear, Lovely Day. I wonder how creative I can get with some of my positive messages. And the thought process behind that was, I think most of us as human beings are visual. And I can say to you, like, believe in yourself. But when you see a creative piece of content that says believe in itself within the that has the message incorporated within the video, I think it's easier to digest. And that was my thought process. So I was like, how can I use this song that uplifts me to create positive messages for people in the morning? And so I went out on this quest to see how many videos I can make to kind of send out positive messages to people in my community. And it's cool because I've made over like 50 videos with the same song, but they all have like a different twist to them, and people really have been into it.
Then you started bringing different props into it.
Exactly.
with making labels and timing the reveal of certain things. And that, I think, speaks back to that process of discovery, doesn't it, Joe? Of where when you commit yourself to just kind of building that muscle of sharing and creating content, isn't it amazing how the next idea reveals itself? But it's like that old idea of the invisible bridge that you can't see, where you need to step off the ledge and just trust that it's going to show itself. But your job is to keep stepping. And it looks like that's been true for you.
Yeah, there's a video. It's funny because I was just talking to which, by the way, this is a good story for you to hear at some point. Faith, her handle is Gotta Have Faith. I got to give her a shout out because she's a big part of my TikTok story as well. But I was just having a conversation with her today about a Will Smith video that I was watching back in the day, and he used to say, like, there's this flow that the universe has, like, and once you like learn that flow, like whatever he was trying to say. But to your point, it is funny how ideas just come when you put yourself out there and just kind of trust the process. Because I'm telling you right now, I think like 90% of my Lovely Day videos with those props all came within that second of me making that video. I didn't plan. I didn't of course I did a random at night, like research of like puns just to see if that would simulate anything. But I would generally wake up in the morning, have my lives, and then boom, an idea will flow in my head. I'm like, oh, I'm going to do that, And so it's just kind of funny how once you start doing it and going with the flow, ideas just start to organically unfold. And that's been the story of my life, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I call this Journeys with the No Schedule Man. And No Schedule Man is essentially, being content with not knowing what's next.
Yeah, exactly.
If you think about it, that it's a journey. If you think about things like, like an old pirate ship back in the day that you put your X on the map where you think your treasure is, and then you set out to go and get it, but it doesn't go as the crow flies. You're going to get blown sideways.
It does, right?
And end up with some adventures that you never expected that you would have, but it only happens once you start moving forward towards something. So I want to ask you before we wrap up about where some of those things maybe are or what they are off in the distance. But before we do that, I feel like I have a responsibility to anyone watching and listening to bring us back to this cold shower thing, because we left that
Yeah.
we left that thought unfinished. If not Wim Hof, like with the breathing and everything else, where did the cold shower thing come across your dashboard and get you trying it?
I feel really sad right now because I don't remember the guy's account who was basically talking about how he has decided to live his life by challenging himself to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Getting comfortable living uncomfortable. It was a TikTok video.
Mm.
Little 60-second video of him kind of sharing this message. And within that message, one of the things that he was doing was taking ice cold showers. And this the conviction that he had around it, like, this will change your life. Like, it changed my life. I loved his energy around it. And so I was like, you know what? Why can't I do that? Like, it sounds terrible. It sounds like a horrible idea. Like, why would anybody try to do that? I was like, that's exactly why I need to do it. I need to see if I can like put myself through those conditions. And so I went in the first day and was just like, you're really stupid, Joe. What do you like? You know, like I'm breathing and pumping myself up like I'm getting ready for a basketball game. I'm like, let's go. And so I put the shower on, and it's crazy. Like, invigorated is an understatement. Even after 15 seconds, which sounds like, it feels like 50 minutes. It's like you come out of that shower just feeling like a brand new human being. And so
The reason why I'm laughing, Joe, is one of the videos that I saw of you. And I encourage anybody watching or listening, go to @Joe
around it.
Because there are a few videos where you actually show yourself like in the shower. And I remember at one of those that I came across, I think it was near the beginning of this experiment that you were conducting. And I remember thinking that your eyes were not really selling it to me, man. I thought, like, I don't know that he's really excited to be there. It feels to me like he's there because he's doing exactly what you just said that you wanted to do, putting yourself in that position of discomfort. Or I have a video that I duetted once with Mike Tyson saying that I do the things that I'm going to mess this up. I'm paraphrasing.
I know what you're saying.
Do the things I don't want to do, but I do them like I love them.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't it amazing what that does for us when we condition ourselves like that, so that when real hardships and difficulties do come along, and they're going to in life, how we're better able to meet those and respond more proactively. An example of that would probably be, just off the top of my head, that response to that horrible George Floyd situation that I mentioned earlier, where you gave what I thought was a really thoughtful, considered, compassionate response in a time when everybody else, and understandably so, was simply reacting. And I don't even know if you were putting yourself through cold showers.
I don't think I was doing that at that time. Yeah, I don't think I was.
It's really interesting, though. So now, so you haven't been actively looking at Wim Hof himself.
I have not. Mm-mm.
You'll be interested in that, Joe. I feel like I've taken over the conversation. I want to give it back to the guest.
You're all good.
Well, I read a book. Every now and then I'll watch Joe Rogan's podcast, depending on
love Joe Rogan.
Yeah, depending on who the guest is. And
right.
He interviewed a guy named James Nestor, who's a journalist and an author, right. And he had written a book called Breath. And I was just fascinated by what he shared talking to Joe. So I went and got the book. This was September, I think, of last year, 2020. Mm-hmm. And Joe, it was one of those things that just blew my world wide open. I was very sick as a kid with asthma. It doesn't bother me as much anymore, although I respect that that's something that I've got to be mindful of. But basically, I went a lot of my life not being able to breathe,
right?
In and out of hospitals a lot and whatever else. And now I'm hearing about breath and being conscious of breath. And you were talking earlier about being present and how, I mean, that really is our life force, and how we can use it and manipulate it to get present, to increase our endurance, to improve our performance, to lower our stress, to lower the chronic inflammation, to manipulate our immune system, and even the difference of what it does to us physically, of breathing through our nose versus through our mouth. It was because of that. That's what led me to Wim Hof. And I encourage you to look at Wim and mix the breathing technique in with your cold showers, and let me know what you think.
Awesome. Send me the name of the guy who Joe interviewed again, because I'm probably gonna forget that.
Yeah, I will. James Nestor.
Sir.
Yeah, and then you can just watch or listen to the podcast and see if that resonates with you or not. But it was one of those things that for me it was like switching out the color of the sky. And in terms of getting present, I am very very disciplined about doing the deep breathing technique that Wim Hof teaches every single morning, and have been doing that for the last few months. And I do the cold showers too. And now I'm finding that my body actually craves it. Like I'll put it really, really hot for a while. And then it's like, no, I want that cold. And I'll, and when the climate's probably not all that different between you and I. I'm in Ontario, Canada. You're in Indiana, right?
Right.
When the summer comes, I'm going to try and do the ice bath thing, Joe. Maybe we can challenge each other to do it remotely.
I'm still definitely doing it because of what you just said. Like I crave it now. I think it's my new form of coffee. You know, a lot of people look to coffee because of the caffeine kick. You know, me, I'm like, man, that cold shower gives me the same, if not more of a kick than anything I've ever experienced.
Yeah. It wakes you up, man, doesn't it?
I've gotten smarter though. Instead of just going in and, you know, turning on the ice cold water, I'm actually setting the temperatures warm, taking an actual bath, and then the last minute or minute and a half, I'll spend it in the ice.
Yeah, well, even Wim will tell you to do that. Open up those capillaries, and I don't know how all the physiology of it, but
I can look it up. I really do need to look it up and make sure I'm doing this right, because I've yet to do that.
It's one of those rabbit holes, and I wonder if it's like this for you too, where you had mentioned you don't read as much as you used to, but you've also got young kids running around the house, and I didn't either when my two boys were young. But I find that my interest, it kind of takes me from one thing to the next to different subjects or authors or experts or teachers who know a certain area, that I just kind of get involved in something for a few weeks or a couple of months, and then one thing leads to the next. Is it like that for you too?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And as you were saying that, I was like, man, you know, it's so true. But, you know, depending on how you're judging reading, you know, I guess we are reading, you know, multiple times throughout the day. It just might not be in the context of a book, you know, because I catch myself reading like random, going down the rabbit holes and reading like articles or different comments, and then, you know, going into Google researching, right? So, but yeah, definitely, like, it's hard to find that time and just sit down and actually consume a piece of content these days. I feel like there's so much going on, especially with kids.
What do you visualize off in the horizon at some point? What are some of the things that you think ultimately you might be working toward?
You know what's funny is I literally was thinking about that just now, of like, it's so funny how High's playing out, and I feel so fortunate about where the brand's going and the connections I'm making and the people that have been impacted by my messages. But at the end of the day, what I'm really passionate about is just branding and marketing and sales. And the reason I even got on social media is because, you know, Innovative Looks Hair Salon that's my parents' company. And so I was trying to figure out what are the best ways to be able to like brand and market to grow our business. And through, you know, Craig, who I mentioned earlier, my first business mentor, and Gary V's, and learning about like what branding and marketing actually means, I just feel like in the horizons, I'm going to be doing the same thing, but trying to bring value, which is going to ultimately bring me more awareness around the projects that I'm working on, which I feel like is ultimately the best way to sell stuff at the end of the day. I can either go out and every piece of content, which most people do, and say, hey, buy my stuff, or
don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that ever. Don't do that. That's the worst way to do it.
Well, do it sometimes. You got to ask for the orders sometimes.
I think depending on, yeah, for sure. I think there's nothing wrong with asking, for sure. But the way I'm so long term, I'm like, I want to bring as much value, and just know that as I help people out, they're going to be interested in me. And as long as I have the proper, you know, platforms and things set up, if they're curious, they'll support me. If they're not, hey, we put good karma into the world. And I believe that if you look at some of the top business leaders in our world today, they built their business from good karma, you know, and doing it right and playing long. And that's the game I'm playing right now. So it's fun to be considered an influencer, but at the end of the day, you know, I'm working at being a great sales guy, business guy, marketer at the end of the day. But what I'm trying to do is merge the two and let people know that business equals relationships, business equals putting out value, and they're kind of, you know, inseparable. So that's the example I'm being in that arena.
Have you done and or can you see yourself doing some public speaking?
I've recently been invited, like really recently, a couple of weeks ago, to, you know, do my first keynote around my high brand to a group of the youth, and that was fun. It's funny because when I was playing basketball, and I guess I used to look up to Will Smith a lot, and Kobe Bryant, I used to see them like speak in public, and I'm like, man, it'd be fun to do that one day. But yeah, I mean, for sure. Like, I think I'm doing it now through my content, but on a big stage, like, I definitely see it. It's an overwhelming thought to see that I've gotten to a point where I'm actually like, it's looking more real than just a dream, you know. But I definitely see myself in that light for sure.
Well, I dream about being able to have experiential events that are, you know, assuming that we'll ever be able to get into the same room with other human beings again at some point, and I'm assuming that we will.
Right.
Where we can bring people together and we can just have really, really good people offering what they can, and I envision doing that with you, with Bryant, and some others. Those are some of the things that I dream about that really, really charges me up.
If I didn't know you, Kev, I would have already assumed that you were doing a lot of that. Like,
well, I do speak, and but I haven't got myself to the point yet where I can, you know, travel around and you know, I haven't built an audience like what you have yet. And, but, you know, I run an event series here in the city where I live, or at least I used to before the pandemic wiped it out.
Right.
Where we have, it's sort of like, I describe it as TEDx meets the Tonight Show. It's called Mo Mondays, which is sort of short for Motivational Mondays, where you get 4 or 5 people that all just tell sort of like a TEDx style story. It's just like a 10-minute story of who they are. And man, I would love to work with you on something. You'd love it. But anyway, I'm off on a tangent, but it's who knows what's off in the distance and where things go. But any way that I can be a support to you, can share what you're doing, celebrate what you're doing, champion and cheerlead for you. I hope you know that I'm in your corner for the whole rest of the way. And I'm so grateful that I got the opportunity to chat with you like this. And I certainly hope that this won't be the last time. And please do reach out anytime you think that I might be able to connect you with somebody, or if you're just feeling run down and you need somebody that you can vent on.
I appreciate it.
But thank you for what you're doing, Joe. You're a lighthouse of a human being as far as I'm concerned. I'm a fan and consider myself a bit of a brother. And I hope this turns some more people on to what you're doing, because I think they need you.
Thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun chatting with you. And I already know that we'll do this again for sure.
Go connect with Joe Atang. You can find him on TikTok at Joe Atang, JoeAtang, on Instagram, Joe.Atang. You can find him on there. I will make sure that I post the links to where you can connect with Joe in the show notes blog post that'll go up at noscheduleman.com. This is episode 100. I'm looking at my whiteboard just to reach 118. Oh, I have it written down right in front of me.
That's a big deal.
This will be episode 118. And we'll get that up on noscheduleman.com on the podcast page just as soon as we possibly can. I want to say thank you to Ryan and the team at Mulligan Realty Group, the kind of realtor you deserve. You can connect with them at mulliganrealtygroup.com. Brett and his great team at Provincial Glass and Mirror. Connect with them at provincialglass.com. My online coaching and collaboration service, which is called My Real Success Pass. If you would like to connect and communicate with me on a regular basis, go to myrealsuccess.ca. And along the lines of what Joe was talking about of marketing and media, but actually talking like a human being and adding value, if you would like some help with your business as far as that's concerned, NSM Brand Media can help you out. Visit us at yoursocialsalesrep.com. On behalf of Joe Atang, my name is Kevin Bulmer. This is Journeys with the No Schedule Man. Thanks so much for watching and listening. We'll see you next time. and much love.
Keep rocking it, Kev. Doing awesome.